This is the largest predator of the North Pole, an animal capable of dominating the ice, the sea, and any prey in its path. But today, it may be losing its own battle for survival. There is an environment at the edge of the Earth where life depends on an invisible detail, a layer of ice that appears and disappears. And it is exactly this detail an entire system is being put at risk of. In recent years, something has begun to change. The ice is disappearing faster than it should. The hunting time is shrinking. And what happens when a predator of this level simply stops finding food? The result is already appearing. Thinner bears, more aggressive, and increasingly closer to human area. But this raises a bigger question. How did the most dominant animal in the Arctic reach this point? What is really behind the collapse of this environment? And if even the top of the food chain is affected, what does this reveal about the future of itself? Before answering, we need to understand how this predator, the absolute king of one of the most extreme environments on Earth. At the far north of the planet, there is an environment where life is not guaranteed. It is constantly challenged. The Arctic is not just cold. It is an unstable system where temperatures can drop to levels close to -70°C, and where the ground itself, formed by sea ice, moves, cracks, and disappears throughout the sea. Unlike a solid continent, a large part of this region is a frozen ocean, which makes everything even more unpredictable. In this scenario, the ice is not just part of the land, it is the foundation of all survival. It is on this unstable surface that one of the most brutal relationships in nature takes place: hunting. For the polar bear, the sea ice works as a strategic platform. It is there that it locates and captures seals, its main source of energy. Without this ground, the predator simply loses access to its prey. In simple terms, without ice, it is like taking the ground away from a hunt. And it is precisely in this extreme environment that the largest terrestrial predator of the Arctic emerged. The polar bear does not just survive there, it dominates. With a diet highly dependent on animal fat, especially seals, it occupies the top of the food chain. Its body was shaped for this: large, resilient, and adapted for long periods of scarcity. Every physical and behavioral characteristic exists with a single objective: to hunt and survive in one of the most hostile places on Earth. Over thousands of years, this species evolved in perfect harmony with the ice. Its hunting strategy, its movements, and even its metabolism are directly linked to the existence of this frozen layer. The polar bear is not just a resident of the Arctic, it is a product of the ice. But there is one detail that changes everything. That same ice, which supported the largest predator of the North Pole for generations, is disappearing. If the polar bear depends completely on the ice, what happens when that ice disappears? What is happening to the polar bear is not an isolated event. It is a warning. Scientific projections indicate that if the current pace continues, the global population may drop drastically in the coming decade, with the real possibility of losing up to 2/3 of the individuals by the year 2050. This is not a slow or natural decline. It is an accelerated fall, directly linked to the transformation of the environment where this species exists. And when a top predator begins to disappear, the impact is not limited to it. The polar bear occupies an essential position in the balance of the Arctic ecosystem. Its presence regulates populations of other species, maintains natural dynamics, and directly influences the food chain. Its absence would not just create a void, it would trigger a cascading effect, altering the entire functioning of this extreme environment. But the most critical point of this story is not only in biology. It is in the origin of the problem. Global warming, the main factor responsible for the loss of sea ice, is not an isolated phenomenon of nature. It is driven to a large extent by human activities, emission of gases, exploitation of resources, and changes in the use of the planet. What happens in the Arctic does not begin in the Arctic. It begins in decisions made thousands of kilometers away. And this is where the narrative completely reverses. For centuries, the polar bear was the ultimate symbol of power on the ice. An animal without natural predators, adapted to the extreme, dominant in every aspect of its environment. But now, it faces something it cannot see, cannot touch, and cannot. The predator has become the victim. And perhaps no image represents this change better than that of a king of ice without a kingdom, an animal perfectly adapted to a world that is ceasing to exist. This transformation is not only ecological, it is symbolic. Because if a species that survived for thousands of years in the harshest conditions on Earth cannot withstand current changes, this raises an inevitable question about the future of the entire system that sustains life. It is not only about the polar bear, it is about the balance between humanity and nature. And this balance is being tested. The relationship between the two has never been static, but what we are seeing now is different. It is not gradual adaptation, it is rupture. It is a pace of change that surpasses the capacity of response of entire species. In the end, the fate of the polar bear does not depend only on the ice. It depends on decisions that continue to be made every day, often far from the eyes of those who observe this problem from a distance. And although it may seem like a distant scenario, restricted to the Arctic, it is not isolated. It is part of an interconnected global system, where changes in one point reverberate through all the others. And perhaps this is the most important reflection. If the largest predator of the North Pole can no longer sustain its own existence, what does that say about the future of the other species? And more importantly, if the polar bear disappears, will it be only the end of a species, or the sign that the very system that sustains life is entering collapse?
If this video made you see things in a completely different way, then it was worth it. Now tell me, did you already know all of this? Or did something here surprise you? Drop it in the comments. I really want to know what you think. And if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to leave a like. How? It really helps and shows you want to see more.